Hello and welcome to part 3 of the Grand Prix 24/7 End of Season Awards. Our next award is the Car of the Year. I don't personally think this is going to be much of a competition here, but let's see what you've got, Ben.
Well, Will, I might surprise you here, but the car I'm going for is the Racing Point RP20. As obviously it only won one race compared to the Mercedes this year. But in terms of stories it generated, controversy, I think it's the car that we can't look past. And the thing for me is that you look at the cars that sort of stand out over history, and it's the cars that... Obviously, it's in a lot of ways it's the cars that win races, but it's also the cars that require regulatory responses from the FIA. And the FIA, with this whole anti-copying furor and putting in rules to make sure it can't happen in the future, shows the impact the RP20's had. So for me, it has to be the pink Mercedes.
So it's a very good choice and very well argued. Paul, what are you going for?
I've got to disagree and go with the W11 because it was just an absolute beast of a car. It's probably, with the new regulations coming in next year, the most potent Formula One car in the history of Formula One. I don't think we're going to see its lap records beaten very easily. I might be wrong in this generation. But the car delivered, so many victories, cleaned up the championship by the halfway mark. When a new driver, yes, George Russell was very good, got in it, boom, he nearly won a race and cemented his career for the rest of his life with one race. And then, it's just the superb piece of kit. I think it epitomizes the whole lineage and pedigree of the cars that Mercedes have developed that have just cleaned up 14 championships.
Yeah, Paul, I'm going to absolutely agree with you. I think W11 was clearly the car of the year. I mean, I think that the fact that it was painted black as well and the kind of meaning behind that livery as well is a really significant part of this for me. But also, while it was probably Lewis Hamilton's easiest World Championship to win, it was probably also going to end up being one of his most iconic. It was the record equaling one. It was in this car that was just untouchable, so elegant to drive. Everyone talks about how kind of stuck to the floor it looked going through fast corners. I just think it was a really nice piece of art in terms of a Formula One car. Hamilton obviously was getting the most out of it every weekend. Bottas put in some stunning laps as well, to be fair to him. George Russell put in some stunning laps as well. But I just think it's an iconic car with an iconic message in kind of the livery as well. So that's why I'm going to have to side with Paul and go for the W11.
Yeah, obviously it's the car that you first think about, I think, for a lot of people. So I can totally understand that. And as you say, its dominance, just in terms of pure speed, even if it didn't win every race, or its percentage of what races won probably wasn't any better than some of the other Mercedes. It was a remarkable car. And DAS is a massive story in itself, and that's will only ever be on this car. So yeah, I can get behind that.
Our car of the year for 2020 is the Mercedes W11. Our next award is the Team of the Year. Be very interested to see what you guys got to say here. Ben, what's your choice?
I think you can go in a few different directions with this, but I am going to go with Mercedes, the unsurprising choice, I suppose. You just think about how everything works, and the fact that it's not just Lewis Hamilton, it's not just Valtteri Bottas, it's not just Toto Wolff, it's James Vowles, it's Andy Cowell, it's James Allison, the list just goes on. So they have all these remarkable people working for them, and it really is one of those things where, as much as those individuals are at the top of their field, the team is more than the sum of its parts. So for me, Mercedes is the pick.
I'm going for AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri secured their first win since 2008 this season at Monza, same place that they got their last win with Sebastian Vettel. They got 100 points for the first time since they became under the kind of Red Bull umbrella. They had a driver in Pierre Gasly who was in the points almost every week, and I think there were only 2 races where AlphaTauri weren't in the points. And they were miles clear of Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams, who are the teams that kind of compete on the similar level budget and similar level personnel size. So I just think, pound for pound, AlphaTauri were amazing this season. Can you believe that AlphaTauri were only 24 points behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship? That is absolutely ridiculous. I just think that they were so impressive this year. Daniel Kvyat was probably the only disappointment, but he did start to even get it together towards the end of the season. They're bringing in a Japanese driver next year, which is a kind of great story for Honda. I was just really impressed with them. I absolutely loved the rebrand and the new livery, and they just delivered this season. You know, they were really, really consistent, and they weren't leaving points on the table at any stage. So, yeah, my team of the year is AlphaTauri. Paul, I don't know if I've been able to persuade you or not.
You make a very good case. Honestly, you do. When I thought about this question, the first thing I did is I thought Mercedes-Benz. And I put that aside, and I thought to myself, what other teams would go for it? Red Bull? No. It's a shambles, actually, if you think about it. Red Bull should have been pushing Mercedes with 2 drivers like they're hopefully going to do next year. But they weren't. They were a one-man show. They mismanaged their drivers horrendously, so they can't win that prize. Ferrari is the other big team, and Ferrari, well, we know where they are. Then we look at McLaren, and I think they deserve to be the underdogs. I think they've still got a way to go to be the other team. So what's the other one? Renault? No, Renault, it's a works team. No. I mean, no. For me, Mercedes, like Ben says, they've got the A team. I think if you chose the best guys in every field, you know, design, engine, management, everything, their guys all are on 100. Starting with Toto, he's like 100. James Allison, all those boys that Ben mentioned, they've just got, honestly, I've been in this sport a long time. This is the most perfect racing team I have ever witnessed. You know, this is absolutely, you just have to look at their videos, their debriefs, look behind the scenes and see what the guys are doing there, and you just think there is no way any other team is going to take this team on. They've got to dismantle it to win it. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. Mercedes are not only the best team of the year, I think they're the best team in the history of our sport.
No, I can't really argue with you too much there. I just think that what AlphaTauri did this year was really impressive, and I just like the fact that so many teams are being so competitive this year. I think if you look at the top 7 teams in the championship, Daniel Kvyat was the only driver from those 7 teams that wasn't on the podium, and I just think that's great for F1, and I just wanted to reward AlphaTauri for the good work that they've put in.
And you know what, Will, you did right. So they come a narrow second, because I'll show you something else. What must have hurt. Monza, Minardi, aka AlphaTauri, winning at Ferrari's home track. I mean, come on, that's just, you know, Minardi or Minnows. I think you can fit Minardi inside the Ferrari canteen. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I agree with you, but I think I'm going to stick with Mercedes.
No, I'm happy to agree with you guys on this one. I was going for a little bit of an outside bet, but I definitely think Mercedes are worthy winners. So there we are. Our 2020 Team of the Year is Mercedes. Our next award is the second most prestigious, I guess, in terms of as a driver, and that is the Young Driver of the Year award. Ben, who are you going for?
Well, my Young Driver of the Year is Pierre Gasly. I think, and as I said this before when we talked about the best race of the year, he's basically resuscitated his career. He's now a Formula 1 race winner, which there's not that many people who can race in F1 who can say that, compared to the amount of people that have raced in F1. And, you know, he's basically gone from being a has-been to now, again, potentially a star of the future. All year long, he was very impressive, not just in the race that he won in Monza. I thought he deserved to get his Red Bull seat back, although obviously Sergio Perez is a great candidate too. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do next year leading the AlphaTauri team.
No, I think that's a very good selection.
George has been an exemplary young driver. He's trounced his teammate. Okay, his teammate's no great shakes, but he's trounced every teammate he's had there. He ticks every box in terms of he's a good kid, he's well-spoken. He's 22, guys. He's the youngest of the young. You know, I think only Lando is younger than him. And he's got this maturity, and he's almost like the Williams #1 driver, if you think about it. You know, the way he sort of conducts himself. And although he is, I can guarantee you no one said, oh, George, you're #1. But he has the #1 vibe. And I think it came out. And then, of course, that that night in Bahrain for the Sakhir Grand Prix, he ticked every box. I mean, here's a guy who got in a car for 4 hours and nearly plonked it on pole position, nearly plonked it on pole position. And then in the race, he's gone. And then I don't know what Mercedes did. They suffered their worst night in history. I think they were so surprised that this George Russell was a little rabbit scurrying ahead of Bottas, who had no answer, that they messed up their sums and they tripped up, and they actually lost the kid the race twice. A star was born that night. For sure he's going to be in a big team at some point. In fact, if I was Red Bull, Ferrari, I'd already be tapping him up for... He's 22. Imagine when he's 26. No, absolutely, the young driver of the year for me is George Russell.
His qualifying has been insane all year. To put that Williams in Q2 as many times as he has, it's just been incredible. And the fact that there have been multiple occasions where he was legitimately going to get points in the slowest car on the grid. It's just incredible consistency, incredible speed. And I'm so glad that he got the chance at Mercedes, and he really proved that he's a really, really special driver. And I'm absolutely thrilled for him. I think that there was always going to be this doubt while he was at Williams, can he handle it at the front? Because he has just been racing at the back, and I think he showed that, yes, he absolutely can. So I can't wait to get him in a Mercedes, and I don't think we'll have to wait too long for that, because I think that, as long as nothing drastically goes wrong at Williams in 2021, that Mercedes seat for the new regulations is his. So, yeah, I'm going to agree with Paul. I think, Ben, you made a very good argument for Gasly, and I think he's done an incredible job, and I'm really happy for him, because obviously being dropped by Red Bull would have been devastating. But it's got to be George Russell for me.
Yeah, I can't complain too much about that. As you say, he's been fantastic, especially in qualifying. The car itself, that Williams car, has been, we assume, is a bit of a dud. It sort of looked that way most of the time. And he still managed to extract some very good results, even though it ultimately hasn't got him any points. That's not his fault. Then he goes to Mercedes, and he's right on it there. He's definitely delivered everything you could have hoped for so far in his young career, so got no problems with that.
Young driver of the year is George Russell. Our next and final award is the driver of the year one. The obviously most prestigious. It's not all about the money and the trophies, it's about the prestige, I think. So I'm sure that the winner of this award will be incredibly grateful. Ben, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I think it can't be anyone besides Lewis Hamilton, can it? Just the year he had, in all respects, has been absolutely incredible. Breaking every record, or equaling every record, basically Formula 1 has out there. He was, from start to finish, the best driver on the grid. I'm sort of... It's hard to say anything about Lewis that hasn't been said before. That's the thing, is because we've been praising him for so long, but he just keeps on delivering. And this is the thing, is that he's at this point in his career now, he's turned 35 this year, he'll be 36 in January, where it wouldn't be unheard of, and you just look at Sebastian Vettel, for him to slow down. But it honestly seems like he's getting better with every year. And when you see a race like Turkey, after all he's done already, it's just like, yeah, this guy is just from another planet. And yeah, you just have to take your hat off to him and say, well, who else could it be besides Lewis Hamilton?
No, I think it's a point, and it's difficult to really argue with, isn't it? But Paul, are you going to try and argue with Lewis?
No, I can't. I mean, Lewis was the driver who just impressed me the most. And again, we're going to harp back on Turkey. I think that was the proper. Everything was answered that day. Is Bottas as good as Lewis? No, he's not. There's no chance. Okay, he lapped him in terrible conditions, so that's gone. Does Lewis deserve what he's got? He doesn't always have he has always got the best car. That day he didn't have the best car. What else can we talk about on that day? Just so many things that when the dust is settled, when the spray is down, Lewis is there. He's delivering. Granted, I'm not underplaying Bottas. He's an extremely quick driver, But Lewis had the handle on him. And I think the only thing that is lacking in that car, in the other car, to give Lewis a proper go is Max Verstappen. That's never going to happen, It's just never going to happen that they're going to put those two guys together. But I'll tell you one thing, and this is why Lewis will always be a great driver. I don't think Lewis cares who's in the car beside him. Of course, if someone comes to him and says, "Hey mate, you're going for your next world title next year. Who do you want in your car, Max or Valtteri, in the teammate car?" He's going to say Valtteri, because it does not work having two alpha males like Max and Lewis in the same team. So that comparison is never going to happen. That's for Honda and Red Bull to give Max the right car to. And we mustn't forget one thing. How much of Lewis's input is in these fabulous cars that just get better and better with every year? There's a lot of world champions that in the past that you put them in a car, they can't develop a car. I'll give you, for example, Ayrton Senna wasn't a great car developer like an Alain Prost. Alain Prost was the professor because he would take the car, make it better. Ayrton liked to arrive and drive. He didn't like testing. You see, whereas Lewis, where the comparison is, he also doesn't like testing, but his feedback on race weekends are such that they can keep this car at such a huge level. And then every time Lewis is expected to deliver, he does deliver. And I don't think you can argue against him.
No, I think that's a really important point that I think is something that was missing at McLaren in those last few years, is that McLaren is McLaren and Lewis Hamilton was this young driver, and they didn't necessarily listen to his feedback as much, and I don't think that he felt like he could kind of help take the team in the direction he wanted to. Whereas he arrives at Mercedes, this is a team that was fairly new to Formula One still, and they kind of allowed him to go with this project the way that he wanted. And obviously in the early hybrid era, that car was winning regardless, it had such an engine advantage. But I think in these last 4 years, this has just been absolute peak Lewis Hamilton. This has been him just absolutely dominant. Didn't matter that Ferrari was very competitive in 2017 and 18. He was just so good. It didn't matter that in 2019, Ferrari had 9 pole positions because he was that good. I do think that he has obviously had the massive advantage this year in particular of the car and a teammate that we know that he's better than. But just because we know that he's better than Bottas, it doesn't mean that it's not an achievement to beat him and to not even give Max Verstappen a sniff on most weekends. So yeah, I think there's no one else. I think obviously Verstappen deserves a lot of credit. Same with Sergio Perez and Pierre Gasly, but I don't think this award can go to anyone barring Lewis.
Yeah, worthy world champion. I think also his causes. There's a lot of pressure. You're doing the cause thing, and then you're getting in your car and racing. So I just think, the guy just ticked every box this year for us. And I think we've got to step out the box and look and say, what do other people think of our champion? And I think we're proud to have a champion like this. We should all be very proud to have a guy who represents our sport at this level in the way he does.
Well, yeah, we can't forget to mention, as you alluded to, his social justice initiatives and what he's done off the track this year. And while it hasn't always sort of gone down well with everyone, that's sort of to be expected. But the truth of the matter is he's fighting for equality, and that's something that I honestly don't see any reason why we can't all get behind. And he's a fantastic role model for kids. He's a fantastic role model for the sport. And as Paul said, we're proud to have him as our champion.
No, I absolutely agree. And I think for that reason, this is one of his most iconic championships. It's the year that he equalled Schumacher's win record. It's the year that he equalled Schumacher's championship record. He did it in a car and a livery that meant a huge amount to him and has an incredibly valuable and important message. And yeah, I'm really proud to have kind of been there from the start, watching him when he made his debut in 2007. So that's our driver of the year, Lewis Hamilton.